going with the flow. So I think it's probably the same way this time around as well.
Shouldn't be an issue lah.
Yeah. Okay, so we are now connecting to the YouTube, just seeing how it looks. Okay, so that's that. Yeah. Okay, so now we are live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the link. But obviously, if you play with the sound and then it will become an infinite audio loop. So if you're gonna see it side by side, right? Then make sure you mute the YouTube. Otherwise, the sound projected from the YouTube will get sucked into your microphone and then it becomes an infinite audio loop.
Yeah, it's a feedback.
Yeah, that feedback thing. Yeah, and well, live is technically not live. It's I think 30 to 40-second lag before it gets updated on the stream itself.
I think no problem.
Yeah, so I think moving forward, this is how we can do it, because it just cuts down a lot of executional hassle, ops hassle, right? Once the live stream ended, it will automatically be converted into a YouTube video with a URL, and then of course it's live on YouTube. It's available on YouTube forever until such day we decide to remove it, which we also don't need to remove, to be honest. So that actually really cuts a lot of problem. Like the previous Zoom calls that you have recorded, right? You probably didn't have time to even get down to editing it. So doing it live cuts away that hassle of still having to remaster, download, and upload. So that's the main thing. Then I think the only thing I think later on for subsequent, I think today we don't really have time to test all the other details. I think the only other thing that probably can enhance the experience more would be to have some auto subtitling, which can then be converted into a script that we can just copy and paste into the description box of the YouTube video.
Yeah, the transcript.
Yeah, so I haven't got that figured out yet. So that's the only thing left. But otherwise,
I thought YouTube has auto caption. But of course, not accurate. Okay, and most of the time, sometimes it's not accurate. Okay, but I think we can, if we are okay with it, we can make do with it for time being.
Yes, I assume so. But apparently, I mean, right now, I think it's still a setting things, because right now, if I'm looking at the live stream YouTube, right, I have my auto caption setting turned on, but there's nothing coming up. So I think it's still probably a setting thing. In any case, so yeah, that one we'll figure it out as we move along. So that's one thing. Then yeah, and then because it's an actual YouTube link, right? So for some of the session that we think that is really interesting, we can always after the live stream is over, we can use those video links and share with whoever we want to share with, just to let people know that we are doing this kind of get-together session, and then hopefully subsequently they will come and listen in, and then on the live chat, on the YouTube live chat itself, they can actually just type some comments, or they can type some things for us to look at, and if there are live comments, we can of course react to it in real time. Yeah. So that's on the technical side of things.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I have to report in terms of the technical aspects of it. I mean, we can get more and more sophisticated as we go along, depending on how we do it. I mean, eventually, you know, the idea, it's fun, and I think the idea is if it comes to a point where it generates enough traction, right? Really could be, you know, like a podcast kind of
talk show.
Yeah, it probably can become that kind of talk show. And that would be quite interesting, lah. I mean, that's something that can be really exciting. Yeah. But that one probably would then have to be it would probably be best if we are all physically in a room and then live stream the broadcast from that room itself.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing, again, as when we come to it, you know, we'll deal with that. But even right now, I think a lot of people are quite comfortable with just this kind of virtual chit-chat sessions, and then that is being live streamed. In fact, earlier this morning, I was watching 2 such live streams that are based on the US. So it's quite cool in that sense. Yeah.
But I think most Singaporeans are still not comfortable with live video other than a live stream auction. Oh, my.
But you see, the good thing about this being a online show, right, is I'm not restricting us to a Singapore business audience. I mean, in fact, it never crossed my mind that this talk show thing, right, or whatever we're gonna call it, right, it never crossed my mind that it's only restricted to Singapore audience. Because we're talking about business, we're gonna be talking and sharing our opinions on business, marketing, and things like that, right? I mean, it's a universal topic. I'm sure interested business operators across other parts of the world will be interested to listen in as well, right? And it goes both ways. You have Singapore businesses and probably some in the ASEAN region wanting to venture into China, and probably US, UK markets. They might want to, listen to what kind of things to think about when it comes to overseas expansion. At the same time, you never know, there will always be brands and companies from other part of the world wanting to come into Singapore, and a session like this probably can help them get a fair bit of insight into how Singapore and the ASEAN region operates. So I think it works both ways. I think it would be very stupid for us to assume and restrict our audience to be just a very domestic one.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the hottest news we can put on discussion?
I assume that you are probably more in tune with the latest topics in the market right now, given that you're probably more active on social media than me, at least on Facebook.
Well, I think it depends on what context. If you're talking about Elon Musk taking over Twitter, that could be one topic. Okay, a hostile takeover instead of just 9.2% shareholder. Okay, he might actually go beyond and might try to take over the whole entire operation of Twitter, even though 9.2%, which he was offered the board seat, and he's supposed to be the major shareholder. Even with 9.2%, he could actually make a lot of decision. But I think right now, apparently, after rejecting the offer to sit on board right now, he's looking at hostile takeover replace. If I'm not wrong, he'll probably be thinking of replacing a lot of Twitter ideology.
What's the implication? I mean, I wasn't paying attention or following that because Elon Musk being Elon Musk, I mean, he can pretty much do whatever he wants with whatever he has. But I wasn't really following. I mean, what kind of implication do you think can come out of it? To me, it's just social noise. Maybe because in my context, Twitter isn't a very integral part of my, my entire day-to-day, whether is it for business or whether is it for personal. It's probably more of a US thing. What do you think?
Yeah, Twitter is more like a US thing. I don't think a lot of Singaporean on Twitter keeping up with what is going on with anything. But I think the Americans are more inclined to Twitter, getting all this updated information through tweaks, making market decision based on somebody tweaks, whether Donald Trump in the past or Elon Musk currently. I think that's a very American thing. But in terms of what are the major implications, I'm not too sure as well, because don't exactly know how really it impact the social media channel itself. And a bigger implication will be the American society at large. So that one, not for me to comment, and I think we just take it as a form of news. Yeah, that Elon Musk taking over the whole entire Twitter instead of just the original 9.2% major shareholders stake. Yeah.
If you look at it from a marketing impact, right? Like what I said, probably the US may have some ripples, and again, I would say a large part of the impact is still probably politically driven, because I think there's also at the same time a report that came out that Twitter actually doesn't have much of an audience or reach outside US, and there's another country I couldn't recall, but for the rest of the world, right, Twitter's reach and awareness is lagging quite far behind. It's not exactly a major or significant platform that needs to be addressed. I think, yeah, I think that's probably a reason why I wasn't paying too much attention about it. If you look at the main marketing drivers that we are using right now in our business, day-to-day, right? I think Twitter is very far down the list.
Yeah, that's right, true.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can talk about other things other than Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Is going to flood the news tonight and probably over the next couple of days.
I think interest for it has already died down. I mean, it was like a big hoo-ha thing for the immediate couple of days, but I don't know. I think there are probably a lot more things to think about in the coming days. In fact, I think some of the bigger topics that might come out these few days, right, would be the interest rates.
Okay, I think besides interest rate, the latest update to the Singapore political scene is Mr. Lawrence Wong is the leader of the PAP, leader for the 4G team.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I wasn't expecting.
Why are you surprised? Why? Because to me, it's over the last few years, the portfolio changed, the portfolio he handled, all the way to becoming the finance minister, is actually paving the way to this stage. So to me, when the news announced, it's like, okay, that's the final nail on the coffin. Other than that, okay lor. That's
I thought
nothing surprising to me.
No, I mean, of course, the fact that he has the finance minister portfolio is kind of a very big indicator. But probably he hasn't grown into that perception yet, because he doesn't seems to give off the kind of aura that you would expect from the first among equals. I mean, if for my personal preference, I would have preferred Ong Yi Kang.
Okay.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think whoever on the team, whoever leading the 4G team, has a big task ahead over the next 10 to 20 years. Okay, to lead Singapore back to a competitive position in the global arena. I think the last 2 years of pandemic have shaken our position in a way that we're not too sure how to move forward with the changing time. Probably we are also being shaken by the effect of the pandemic, whereby our logistic supply chain and I think have greatly affected our position. But other than that, I think there's quite a heavy load. I think Singaporeans, the newer generation Singaporean, Gen Z, are expecting more. They are more vocal. They are also considering rights like the LGBT rights. They're also looking at things like death penalty on drugs. Okay, they're also looking at a lot of other things. Okay, that I think most of us will just will not take it too seriously, since it's almost like it doesn't affect our generation too much. But I think with the current generation, they're also looking at some of the changes they want to see in their work-life balance. Okay, so women's rights have been discussed. Labor's rights are also being discussed. So these are something that I think moving forward, we're going to expect a lot of changes. I think the 4G team have a lot to handle. It's another new generation of new problem. So it's not as though that previous generation don't have problem. But every generation have their own set of problems. So let's see how the next 15, 20 years of Singapore evolve from now, looking at our current state post-pandemic.
But I mean, the selection of the particular individual to be first among equal aside, right? The large direction and the overall structure of the leadership doesn't really change, right? So I mean, I don't see anything that might be fundamentally different to expect just because the so-called leader of the 4G is being announced. I think it's still very business as usual. In fact, I think nobody really pays a big attention to it. Yeah, the real challenge still is, right. I mean, for all intents and purposes, right, this is the leadership cohort, right, that doesn't really have the legendary or star status of the previous leadership, right? So I think the real challenge is, okay, then obviously now with this announcement, the big thing to look for is, okay, how is Lawrence Wong going to lead this into the next GE? I think that is the litmus test. You can't, I mean, you can be anointed leader, you can be named as, the first among equal by your colleagues. That wouldn't fly until you go through the baptism of fire and lead the entire party to a convincing victory, right? That I think, if you look at it from a political party point of view, that's probably the thing that is more significant.
I think politically in Singapore, generally, like what you mentioned, I also believe it's business as usual. Okay, nothing much change. But I think once outside Singapore, there is actually things that we should consider. Our position, okay, in terms of how US and China right now pitting against each other, and how Singapore going to actually, with our own interests, okay, how can we navigate these two relationships? Yeah, the relationship between these two giants, economic giants. So I think there's a lot to be observed over the next few years down the road until 2025, the next election. Okay, I think that there's quite a number of things that we need to observe. Okay, outside Singapore more than internal. I think internal, the business as usual things. Everybody is complaining over the next 2 years about inflation due to the GST. Not just that, but because of the Russia-Ukraine war, it disrupted the whole entire global logistical supply chain, bringing energy, bringing food prices somehow almost into a situation whereby we are ready trying to make sense how to actually spend our daily expenses for the next 2 years. Okay, and even I myself, I'm also considering okay, the changing of the the energy supplier. Okay, so who give the best, and there's a lot of cost reductions strategy individually and in the area of business we need to manage, especially in business. I think the next 2 years are going to be very challenging time for a lot of SMEs trying to keep ourselves afloat, not just afloat, but survive into the post-pandemic situation. Good thing that we are just open up, and I think we are recovering fast, being a metropolitan city. Okay, I think we are seeing a lot of travelers coming in. Okay, both on the leisure and as well as business trip. Events are going to be coming back. Okay, I just received somebody saying me Zhou Jielun, okay, is coming in December, okay, holding a concert. So okay, so maybe I go and see. But I think generally as we open up, while it's going to be potentially a rosy situation, it's still a very thorny situation. Okay, there's a lot of maze we're trying to navigate. Manpower cost is not going to be cheap. Okay, not because of local demand, but because there are some position whereby some foreigners may have to fill up, but because of the levy, it will definitely increase the cost to business. And what this transpire will be eventually to the end consumer, the price to the end consumer. Okay, so cost is not going to go down. Okay, moving into the next 2-3 years. So it's going to be a challenging task for most SME to balance this cost, especially right now when so many things going up: energy, food, accommodation as well. Okay, right now as the Singapore Malaysia open up our causeway, good that we open up. Okay, and many Malaysians will be coming into Singapore to work. Okay, because of obviously for the exchange advantage, for exchange rate advantage. But at the same time, it's going to drive what I foresee, our residential rental rates up because of demand, high demand. And we are still facing the COVID, still in the COVID situation. So therefore, obviously, landlord will be very mindful. Okay, and therefore, it's going to be higher compared to a couple of years ago. Okay, in terms of residential rental, and this could also mean that for some employer, they are getting Malaysians workers. They probably need to prepare to set aside extra amount to attract Malaysian into their own company as well. And because if the levy is high to employ a non-Malaysian, I may want to actually employ Malaysian who can fill the position. But given that people are also looking for Malaysian with some similar skill sets, I probably have to compete on a higher note with fellow competitors. You understand? So everything spiral upwards. To SME, it is going to be some challenging time, but I believe that we should band together as a as a community, SME community, to see how we can manage this challenging path over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I want to circle back to you on this whole situation with the manpower allocation later on. But I just want to cut in here first, right? Because we talk about this inflation thing, right? And of course, MAS just announced tightening the monetary policy, right? Given your financial background, can you actually just explain it in a very layman way for us? What is this monetary policy tightening, and how is it? How such instruments help with trying to slow down the inflation? I don't think they're trying to curb it. It's more like slowing down. But again, with your financial background, how can you best share it briefly in a very layman way for us to understand this?
Well, normally what happens is interest rate will go up when you tighten the supply of money. Meaning you say MAS is supposed to actually release out assuming just arbitrary numbers, $1 billion in the market. Right now, instead of giving $1 billion, they become $500 million. So lesser money, right? Lesser supply, right? So demand is still high, right? Because of inflation, we still need more money to buy more things, right? Therefore, interest naturally go up. Therefore, with that consideration, businesses who don't really need a lot of money for this time, because in consideration of the high interest rate, I will try means and way how to control my expenditure. So by controlling expenditure, I do not buy a lot of things. When I do not buy a lot of things, things don't get inflated so fast. Can you imagine right now I got $1 billion that MAS want to release. Then because of the market condition, suddenly MAS want to release $2 billion instead of $1 billion. So MAS need to get this money out in the market fast, right? So we lower down the interest rate. And all the banks start to really lend out to all the businesses and all the individuals who need money. So when the people have money, what do? Buy more. Right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
Buy more. Right? Then when buy more, mean what? The demand go high, right? Then the seller, what do? I increase the price, right? When I increase the price, right, inflation will go up all the way upwards, right? So when you limit the supply of money, you increase the interest because right now, right, people cannot borrow so much. And you want to borrow, you must be prepared to pay for the price of the limitation of supply. And if you're willing, to pay for the higher interest rate, you please go ahead. But before you reach that, before the bank approve and you get the money, you also think twice. Interest go high. I don't know whether my business can able to generate enough to pay the bank the interest. So I will think. Oh, right now I'll try to actually limit my expansion. I may not want to actually use so much. I may not want to actually borrow so much of money for my purchasing of equipment, new factories, or new whatever, or get more manpower. So with that, right, I will control. And when I control, I will slow down my purchasing, slow down the potential inflation in general.
Okay, I see. So essentially, the main or primary instrument that a central bank uses to so-called influence the market would be the adjustment of the interest rate, right? But my understanding is MAS actually does it slightly differently from most central banks, where we don't use interest rate as the primary weapon. We use our exchange rate. So how is that different? What's the difference, and how is it make our position a bit unique and different in the way we go about dealing with our fiscal policy? I mean, just again, layman it for us.
So when our good question. First of all, the thing is that when our money have a stronger exchange rate, we're able to buy more, right? Now, because it's a very delicate balance. For people who need to sell out of the country with a higher exchange rate, with a stronger Sing dollar, I got problems selling to people. Okay, people don't buy because my goods are expensive because Sing dollar is very, very strong. Okay, compared to the local currency. Okay, but at the same time, okay, with Sing dollar strengthening, we're able to purchase more items, cheaper items from overseas, more and cheaper items from markets that we are able to take advantage of. Take for example, let's say Malaysia have raw material there at this junction because of our strength of our dollars, Sing dollar. Instead of buying one wood log, okay, at maybe 10 USD, okay, 10 Sing dollar. Okay, right now because we are stronger, okay, right now our 10 Sing dollar I can buy 2 log of wood. So with that, it is sort of helping some businesses, okay, to cope with our local inflation as well. Okay, instead of buying from Singapore, I might thinking about how can I reduce costs by sourcing overseas instead of buying here, right? Then everybody 水涨船高, okay, you buy, I buy, everybody going to compete for maybe one lot of wood. Okay, you're a local wood carpenter, also local wood competitor, and then somebody is a local wood supplier. So you compete at $1, then I suddenly compete at 110. So obviously the seller, I sell to Steven better because Steven give me 110.
Yeah.
10% more than Alva. I myself sell. But naturally, this will spiral upwards because the local commodities will become very expensive. Correct? So then with the strengthening of the Sing dollar, I'll think, instead of buying from this person, I go and try to source for overseas. Maybe I can get cheaper. And after calculating all the freight forwarding charges, all the transportation charges, all the exchange rate, all the taxation, make more sense. I might as well go outside and source instead of buying from local. So it's a very delicate balance. The MA is trying to use this exchange rate as a strength to also curb local inflation. Like I mentioned, the word is local inflation. Yeah, not easy. Not easy.
I mean, I assume that we are going to have a challenging time given that most of our consumption is imported. So there's only a certain limit to how you can control the inflation, right? Because right now, like what you mentioned earlier, right now there's a conflict in Europe. So no matter how we adjust our monetary policy, the fact of the matter is supply is significantly reduced, right? So we are still going to face a lot of headwinds.
Yeah, that's the reason why just what I mentioned. You need to calculate all this exchange rate, right? All this freight forwarding costs, because instead of getting local, obviously you will minimize your transportation, your costs, all these costs, your maybe even storage costs. Then that is all. Yeah, like what you mentioned, there's a limit. Okay, there will come upon a time I will have whatever I think, okay, to execute may sort of balance in a certain way. So over the next at least next 6 months, as this war between Russia and Ukraine still wage on, I do foresee we are our food, energy, and some of our supply, okay, will be having some inflationary pressure to move the price upward. Even Daiso, my favorite shop, Daiso, $2.
No, but then $2 plus GST wouldn't hurt you, lah. Come on. No, but I do understand. My
favorite shop will have to incur GST, and over the next 2 years, I think Mothership have actually broadcast, okay, that probably I do incur additional 18 cents for 18 cents, okay, for every $2 item.
What's the GST rate right now? I actually can't remember. Is it 7 or 8 right now?
7%. Next year, January, 8%. The following year, 2024, it will be 9%.
Okay, I see.
So eventually, we have to cater additional 10% off for expenses, for GST.
Yeah. Correct.
Of 10%. So that's the reason why over the next 2 years, some of the bosses also share with me, they are already planning and feeling the pressure of pay rise. Okay. So meaning they have to cater additional percentage of bonus of hopefully bonuses, but basically pay increment to retain good staff, because it's not just about these wages, but also they also need to think about how other ways besides money they can retain all this stuff. As you know, as the next 2 years, as we go through GST increment, I do believe a lot of people are also thinking of changing jobs when the market start to become much better. And today there's a lot of position to fill up, because last 2 years there's exodus of foreign talents. Yeah, as Bobby can see in Hong Kong now and Shanghai now, the pandemic had caused a lot of people going back to their home country. Okay, yeah. So there's going to be competition of manpower over the next 2 years as well. Okay, and not just inflation. You need to make sure that you already pay above market rate. Okay, compared to a competitor, to retain and recruit some really skilled workers, skilled talents. I would say skilled talents.
Yeah, I suppose if you're considering skilled talents, then the reward, the compensation package comes into a very big factor. But the thing, I would say the uglier, more realistic reality is, right, what this pandemic has shown, right, is outside provision of physical services, right, really physical services. You talk about food, you talk about buying a car. In fact, I think buying a car can be semi-virtual already. So you're really talking about very, very physical, in-person, face-to-face contact kind of services like hairdressing, salon, food, right? I would argue that a large majority of businesses, and by extension, their operations, can be done virtually. So when that is something that has already been tested over the last 2 years because of the pandemic, right? You would, I'm sure that a lot of businesses will start to realize that having a physical workforce is not as important or as significant as it used to be.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily, I mean, yes, of course, we on the path to recovery, more businesses are trying to expand or resume their plans that have been on hold for the last 2 years. So definitely there is a manpower demand. But I do not necessarily think that just because of that, right, it becomes an employees market. In fact, I would still think that it's very much an employers market, because of that these 2 years of forced learning has shown businesses that it is possible to run a business without a big physical footprint in terms of workforce. So then that really goes back to the heart of the question, something that we have probably talked about in the last 2 sessions, right? Where if you're talking about employment in the domestic context, in Singapore's context, right? What's the advantage a Singaporean worker brings to the table other than being just physically in Singapore? Because that alone in itself doesn't cut it anymore.
Okay, in my take, based on my personal observation, I see that some of these industry are due for disruption by technology. Okay, that's why digitization, regionalization, is really something that a buzzword that since 2018, 2019, not even pandemic. That's long time. And digitalization have caused us to rethink about our workflow. And pandemic just accelerate and just create an experiment ground over 2 years in this digitalization. And yes, you're right. Some of the industry and companies will have to think of digitalization, will have to think on how they can transform to tap on regional skills virtually. Okay, and you're right. Some companies are already thinking of tapping the regional skilled workforce virtually. Okay, in the past, people will frown at, you're having your graphic designer in Thailand and your web designer in Indonesia, your sales and marketing force in Malaysia, and your production team is in Germany. People frown about that, even as SME. Okay, not MNC. MNC obviously they have their present in places of interest. But for SME to have such a diverse workforce, before the pandemic, a lot of people was thinking, is it possible? But during this pandemic and right now, after 2 years into the pandemic, I do believe a lot of SME are already regionalized virtually, not physically. and to some industry, I do believe it's still an employer market, because there are some skill set that can be automated. There's some skill set that can be digitized. Okay, the workflow can be much more streamlined, and with that streamlined operation, I can plug regional people or global, not regional, can be global workforce to be in that work that streamline itself. And in America, over 40% of the Americans are deemed to be gig workers according to some form of studies. So if I want to get somebody to write me an article, do I really need to get some regional person or even local person? May not. I can actually go to 5K, pay somebody 10 USD or even 50 USD, okay, depending on what's my budget for somebody to do something for me. And even you want to get a coder, do you really need to have a Singaporean poly grad or university grad, computer science graduates? I don't really think so. I think I can simply go Vietnam and just ask anybody who can do this thing. Even India, okay, many years ago, I do believe some of these coders or web designer are mainly from India. Okay, not necessarily Singapore. I know a company that relies heavily on India, in their India workforce to do web design and web development. Yeah.
So I think my own company, our entire tech production team is in India.
Yeah. So this is normal. So to some industry will definitely have to rethink their business model and ready to cut costs, especially in today's, we are not talking about Singapore market. Singapore market is very small. Okay, especially SME, a lot of us recognize that Singapore is very small. You need to not just regionalize but globalize some of your businesses. Okay, and really SME need to start to think like MNC, but from a SME point of view.
In fact, like adding to that, right? Yeah, it's not just a domestic thing. It's really a global marketing. And I think the other thing that a lot of local SMEs are failing to realize or fail to catch on is that this thing about being virtual, this thing about being able to handle work remotely, right? A lot of places are catching on to this reality much faster than Singapore.
Yep.
We don't even talk about the very tech things, technology obviously has always been remotely handled for the longest time, back in the booming 80s and 90s, US companies already outsourced a large part of their tech to India. So there is a history of outsourcing. There's a history of remote office when it comes to things like tech and telemarketing and so on. But I'm talking more about closer to home kind of operations, basic admin functions, like you talk about your accounting, your taxation, right? It's not even something new, but I think because of the pandemic, the wave is accelerated. There are a lot of KL-based, Johor-based accounting firms, taxation firms that are quite familiar with Singapore taxation, Singapore accounting laws, and they are offering to help Singapore companies handle their books at a fraction of whatever Singapore companies are paying locally.
Yeah.
So things like that are already have been in motion, and it's only going to accelerate. And what we are seeing is not just taxation, basic admin services, appointment booking, scheduling, telemarketing, for sure. Even graphic design, social media marketing, a graphic designer handling graphic duties for a Singapore company, right? When its cost base is in KL, right? There's pretty much no fight. You are able to save like 2/3 of whatever you're paying locally. So there is that whole wave of people trying to come and snatch our cheese, if you will. It's just that we are quite slow to realize that. Now, the thing is, certain services, certain such kind of solutions, right? It's going to be commoditized because of the pricing pressure, the difference in exchange rates. Other people are coming to take our cheese. I think, again, going back to what we talked about previously, right? The real issue with Singaporeans and Singapore businesses at large, right, is knowing that someone is coming to take your cheese, right? All right. Are you prepared to go and find a bigger cheese?
Yeah.
Are you prepared to find a different cheese from a different plate? Or you are just having this illusion that, okay, you know, the cheese that's nearest to me is still big enough that I can still feed off for years to come. I think that's the biggest worry. A lot of Singapore businesses probably have a very low sensitivity to danger signs.
Well, in some industry, I cannot say for all. Obviously, in so many industry, in so many different companies, big size, small size, okay, whether MNC or SMEs, I think there will be pockets of people who do not regard risk as part of their daily management, okay, thinking. Okay, there will be a portion, okay, or else we won't be having stories, textbook stories like Nokia, Kodak, okay, they're gone through bankruptcy, and even okay, almost near to non-existent until they pivot to a few. Just like Kodak right now is focusing a lot on lens production, not so much of obviously photography firm already went extinct, okay, but apparently some parts of the world do use photography firm. But
I think they did this whole nostalgia thing, and so it's actually a niche. They have this. I think they are still producing for very, very niche market for hobbies. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Oh, but coming back on this, I think there will be people who don't see fear or don't see risk in their business operation. There will be some who are much more prepared than the rest. So I always believe in the bell curve theory. There will be 10 to 20% people can't be prepared for changes. There will be another 10 to 20%, they are always prepared for changes. And the remaining 60% to almost 80% of people, okay, will take a step take a look first before they actually implement action. So they are not the first mover. There's always this 10 to 20% of the business, whether entrepreneurs or corporates, okay, they are more forward. They're able to see things that are beyond the curve. It's not just on the cutting edge, but they are the one went beyond the curve. They are always innovating, creating new things for the people on the leading edge to follow. So if you're on a leading edge, that is not safe. You need to be you need to go beyond the curve. But to go beyond the curve, it takes a lot of visionary leaders to bring them vision into reality, which is not easy. That's the reason why only 10%, like people like Elon Musk, who have seen e-payment long time back when we are still using money. Okay, PayPal was quite forward looking. Other than that, okay, I think coming back to the point on risk, I think as a business owner, as entrepreneurs, we should always be fearful of our cake. But it doesn't mean that, okay, we cannot share. So like what just I mentioned, SME business owner willing to give up their current cheese, small little cheese, for a bigger cheese. And maybe it's not cheese, it's a cheesecake. It's a totally new thing. Okay, can I go ahead? So that is also something that I think all of us as business owners, sometimes we also struggle. Okay, sometimes we gotten some success in one area and we sort of turn it to a comfort zone that we don't wish to step out of. I mean, I'm also guilty of that. Okay, so I'm not. I cannot say that I'm not guilty of that. There are areas of strength that I'm not willing to go beyond my comfort zone. Okay, which is normal. Okay, we are all human. At some point of time, we will get mentally, physically tired. And once we reach that state and happen that we didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about it, we will also stick within our comfort zone until one point of time, somebody, whether the mentor or whether something drastic happened, it triggered us in terms of thinking more strategically. Only then we think, hey, now that I'm in my comfort, now I realize that I'm in my comfort zone. Can I do something? Can I try out something? Okay, before I embark on a new path, pivot my business to a new path. Okay, so I think all of us as business owner, as entrepreneurs, we need some timely reminder from our peers that know us, from things that surrounding us. So we need to really learn from everywhere, from everyone, so that it keep our mind be reminded of potential risk to all business. Yeah, it's a constant reminder. Yeah, it's part and parcel of business, correct?
Yeah, but I suppose that is if you're still in the frame of wanting to grow the business. I think it's perfectly fine if, you know, there are some people who are very contented with where they are. I think my point about, you know, being sensitive to the dangers and things like that is, right, if you're at a stage in your life or in a stage in your business where you're contented and comfortable, there's nothing wrong with it. I think the bigger risk is you do feel that you want to grow the business, but you are growing without an acute sensitivity to what are the dangers around you. I think that is a bigger problem, because then there is a higher likelihood that you will end up investing or reallocating your resources in a misguided way, or into directions where does not necessarily align with the updated realities of the market. That's where I think the bigger risk is.
I think you and I have met a business owner. Sorry, they may be too comfortable in their age, in their stage of life, right, that they really don't want to do anything about it, even though they're aware that they're in danger.
No, but if they are self-aware and if they make a conscious decision to be contented, I think that's fine. Because I think, again, business growth aside, pure chasing of commercial success aside, right? I think one of the big life lessons from this pandemic is, right, you realize that a lot of things actually can't be measured in dollars and cents. Even for people probably our generation, our age group, right? We don't talk about those established business owners who are probably closer to retirement. But even for our age group, right? I think a lot of us are having this reassessment of what actually do we want out of life? What's the meaning of life? And whether does it involve just a pure undulated pursuit of money, of career? Probably to some people right now, it's not that important anymore. Yeah, and I think that's perfectly fine. And I think that's why there's this explosion of gig economy, not just across many parts of the Western world, but in Singapore, obviously, as well. I think that's probably what's fueling the rise in the gig economy. Because all other things aside, it really gives the individual the freedom to do what they want at their own pacing. So they have own agency over their life. I think that's the fundamental appeal. And because once you have agency over your own being, right, it's actually very easy for an individual to make a decision of, okay, do I want to go and take an extra gig and earn me another $500 to $1,000 and stress my next 2 weeks or my weekends, or do I want to just chill out and take a step back, enjoy life for a while, or take a spur of the moment vacation, and I'm willing to forego earning an extra $500 to $1,000 because I want to cater to another non-tangible aspect of my life. I think because of that agency and that ability to do it the way they want, and I think that's probably what's fueling the gig economy, which then goes back to the whole problem of not a lot of people are really that into full employment, or they become more selective about getting into a full-time job.
Okay, what I see is it's not just about this having agency on your life. Sorry. Sorry, having a dry throat. Okay, it's not just about having agency, control of your own life, but I think it's also lack of opportunity. Sorry, let me get a cup of water.
Yeah, you get a cup of water.
Okay, so it's not just about having control on your own life, but like John mentioned, it also boils down to opportunity, job opportunity. For some people, it could be a lack of opportunity. They have no choice. They have to go to the gig economy for a while for survival. Okay, of course, there will be some people who want the control of their life. Maybe after some years in the corporate ladder, they just want to do something that they love, have some mental wellness with their life. of course, there's also another group of people who just want to control their own life to do something that they have expired or inspired to try out. Okay, in terms of gig economy, it's not just about your delivery, food delivery, or courier delivery people. It could be freelance coach, okay, freelance instructors, freelance graphic designers. Okay, some feel that okay, they are making their own future. Okay, recently, I think just about a couple of days, Mothership went and I think it's, if I'm not in Mothership, yeah, Mothership went to interview if I'm not, the company called Cool Stuff. Okay, yeah, it's a advertising, marketing and advertising company set up by Pat. Okay, so she was asking herself, okay, I think at the point of time she was, when she started this business itself, right? Okay, to me, starting a business is also considered gig. Okay, it's just a matter of the size. I think she was having some personal family challenges, and therefore, for a normal paid job, which she will never be able to accumulate enough in terms of income to settle that piece of issue, financial issue. So doing a gig, running a business, okay, if you're confident enough, okay, you can make more than what your boss is paying you. Yeah. So therefore, probably I see there's many different group of people in the gig economy. Some just want freedom. I don't want people to control me. Okay, right from the start. So there are youngsters who don't want a boss. Then there's also, on top of that, there are some much more senior people who already gone through the corporate ladder and don't want somebody to boss them anymore. They want some peace of mind. So these are another group. Then another group is lack of opportunity. It just happened that I can't find any job. I become a gig worker. So since I know I'm good with graphic design, I post myself as a freelance graphic designer for a time being, okay, to earn some small pockets of money. There's another group of people. It's just happened that they just want to aspire to try something new. So I'm not so sure whether I want to go into full time. I want to try. So these are what I call as a part-time gig workers, okay, or weekend gigs worker. So I do know of full-time people, okay, my friends. Monday to Friday is one occupation. Saturday, Sunday is another occupation. Yeah. So these are the part-timer want to try. Okay, it doesn't mean that they're really into it, but they want to try. Take for example, I have a friend, weekend, she's a home-based baker. Okay, whereas in a Monday to Friday, she's a accounting director. Okay, Monday to Friday, but a home-based baker when come to weekend. So she's okay with that because that actually took her off from the work as well. So it also become a very therapeutic experience for her. So there's so many different reasons people come to gig economy, and therefore, yes, control of life is one thing, making more money could be another thing. At the end of the day, all these gig workers, or I would say self-employed, or even entrepreneurs, okay, everybody come into business for different reasons. Yeah. So I think other than this, I think the next current hot topic for the day is that what was that? I just have lost or change my thought. Okay. In the business world, oh yeah, besides the inflation, okay, people talking about this one, Am I? Okay, I just lost my thoughts on that. I thought that there is there's something that deal with business. Okay, right now I got my Facebook flooded with Mr. Lawrence Wong succession to the 4G team. So
I thought what we said just now, right?
To stroke all the way down to find any updated news.
No, but I mean, to me, it's okay, lor. I mean, like I said, it's probably expected. There's really nothing out of the fancy with this one. I'm not too sure why people are overly excited about it.
Yeah, like I mentioned to you, the portfolio you hold, more or less, you know, that okay, it's to me, it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
It's kind of expected. Yeah, it's kind of expected. Okay. Yeah, forgot there's actually a news. Okay, other than Elon Musk, I got two set of. Now the challenge about Facebook algorithm is whatever when one news is being tapped on or being commended then the subsequent layer of news okay, I can't get rid of the same topic because it seems to be since this is considered a relevant topic to this user, right? I'll send all the information about this topic to you. Okay?
Yeah, I mean
that's irritating.
No, that's the problem with social media network because of the way the algorithm works, right? It reinforces confirmation bias. It reinforces groupthink. That's why we always get stuck in our own thought bubbles. That's a very dangerous thing.
And that is also, I share a couple of days back. All of us need to learn to be very critical with whatever we consume in the media, not just
I think every one of us need to learn how to just switch off from Facebook. That's what I think.
It's not just Facebook, it's also other media as well. Okay, it's not just you got other things as well. At the end of the day, this algorithm just keep on bouncing into you.
No, I would disagree slightly with what you just said. If you talk about all the media channel, don't just say social media channel, but you talk about most media channels out there, right? There is a reason why Mark Zuckerberg is being very hated. He's probably the most hated business leader in the tech space, or probably the world, in terms of all the big established brands, right? Why he is probably the one that's most hated. There is a kind of a valid reason for it, because probably he started with good intention, but the fact of the matter is he didn't do something about it. He just let Facebook, grow into its own monster. And I think that's where the danger is. Because if you look across all the media platforms out there in the market, right, only Facebook has the worst confirmation bias and groupthink algorithm syndrome. You don't get that kind of problem with, for example, YouTube. Like Facebook, if you're into a subject, if you comment a certain way, it gets reinforced by you being shown and exposed to like-minded content, and then it just forces you down a very deep rabbit hole with that groupthink syndrome, right?
Yeah, so that's why I saw the similarity between TikTok, Douyin, and Facebook, whereby once I like something, once I comment something on this particular video or this particular these articles, let's say for example Facebook, I tell you the next few moments is all the same thing. Yeah.
I think in my experience, TikTok not so bad. I think because TikTok is, even though it's going very fast, I think it is still at a stage where it is trying to pull even more audience, right? So I think within its algorithm, it does sometimes suggest different things for you to explore. So I don't think
once a while.
Yeah, I don't think TikTok algorithm is really that bad. Yeah, but Facebook is atrocious. You can't get out of a group thing in Facebook. It's very difficult to do it.
Yeah, that's why I think at the end of the day, all of us need to be very critical.
Which is why we talk about having access to news and objective news, right? YouTube is probably a better channel. Okay, like for example, YouTube, right? Again, there is algorithm reinforcement, right? So let's say if you are viewing videos on the Ukraine-Russian war, right? Chances are 80% of your video for the next couple of weeks is all going to be about Ukraine-Russia.
Yeah.
But the thing is, right? It's not homogeneous in the angle of the story that's being told. You get me or not? Just because, let's say you watch the CNN news clip, right? Okay, yeah, you will still get your NBC, you still get the Western one, right? But you will probably once in a while get the ones from Middle East, you'll get the ones from Taiwan, you'll get the ones from Germany and France. So it's still on the Ukraine Russia topic, but you get different angles, you get different viewpoints. So that confirmation bias problem, that groupthink problem, isn't that obvious with YouTube. Yeah, but it's very serious with Facebook.
Yeah, it is a algorithm thing.
That's why. Let's say if it's a news that is worth diving deeper into, right? I usually will get my feel of it more from YouTube video commentaries rather than whatever is being shown on Facebook. I would say that Facebook for me is almost purely entirely just entertainment.
Then how do we do Facebook marketing then?
I think first of all, right, any business wanting to do Facebook marketing, I should not think about doing Facebook marketing first. They should think about what is the narrative that they want to put out. You should think about what exactly is the thing that they're going to say, what exactly is their target audience, and then decide if Facebook is a channel that is worth their time. A lot of businesses, I would assume, particularly startup and SMEs, right? Before they even get a website up and running, they'll probably jump straight first into Facebook marketing. I think it is a common policy for SMEs and especially startup, because obviously Facebook is free. It doesn't cost you anything to just create an account and start posting things and so on. So the ease of setting up Facebook probably drives why a lot of people are going into Facebook. But it is almost negative ROI until you decide to run ads. Because Facebook as an organic channel doesn't work. Even someone like The Rock, who has a huge following on Facebook, right? Probably less than 2% of his followers get to see the things that he posts.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are not Rock. So if he doesn't get the kind of exposure and reach, even The Rock doesn't get it, right? What chance is there for the rest of us? So a lot of businesses do not quite understand this, or they still have not really fully registered this fact in their mind, which is why a lot of businesses still stick to what they know from previous years, posting on Facebook every few days, make sure that there's some posting up on the Facebook, even though if you look at the statistics, right, hardly anybody view it, hardly anybody comment or like it, right? So sometimes it's just purely for the sake of, 自己爽 that they have done something, but does it deliver tangible results? The objective fact is it does not. Realistically, it does not. Statistically, it does not. we have seen so many situations, we have seen so many cases, right, where purely updating posts on Facebook and hoping that organic reach can take you somewhere, right, does not exist. That situation does not exist unless you have a very viral piece of content. That is a different matter altogether. But all things being equal, viral content is a bit like lightning in a bottle. You don't necessarily go out and create viral content, right? The other thing with viral content is also, right, some people create viral content with a content being viral as its prime objective. So yeah, you may be able to create viral content and get a lot of exposure, get a lot of attention. The real question then becomes, because you want a content to go viral, you create the content in a certain manner. It's more clickbaity, it's more provocative, right? Does that align with your brand? Does that drive the ultimate goal of brand appreciation?
Right, correct. That's why I think 2 days ago I was sharing this thing with my friend, one of my business friend. Okay, recently I came across this TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Okay, a channel. Okay, yeah. Somebody cutting a bread. A slice of bread, not the whole bread. Okay, they put the whole bread. Okay, he put the whole bread on the table. He sliced one. He made one slice and pull the whole loaf, the rest of the loaf aside for this slice of bread to fall down. Okay, looking at the speed, because he actually changed the bread on a daily basis and slice different bread on a daily basis just to see which bread will help to his vertical position for the longest time. Okay. So it went viral.
Yeah,
I was sharing this with one of my friends. Hey, can you imagine if Gardenia or all different other breads company source him out and ask them to cut the different bread that the bread companies sell and do a vote or do a whatever, do something that could be another commercial viral effect. Okay, but of course, like what you mentioned, does it have how you need to gel back to your corporate image, corporate reputation, corporate goal? What exactly are you trying to achieve?
I would even go further to argue this. I think systemically, right, I do not appreciate viral content from a business strategy point of view, from a marketing point of view. If you want to do a short, immediate guerrilla attention grabbing gimmick, right? Fine. I think there is a value in viral content. Okay? But doing marketing with an intention of creating something viral, right? I systemically disagree with that because it almost have no long-term impact, regardless of the initial short-term wave. So right now you're talking about this bread thing. Right? I'll give you this case right now. Assuming today Gardenia or Sunshine or whichever bread brand saw this and think, hey, think like what you said, hey, the social media managers like, hey, this is very interesting. Obviously our product is bread. Why don't we get this person? We send him all our different bread, our milk white bread, our Hokkaido, our grain, whatever, right? Okay, please go ahead and do this thingy, right? Let's go viral. You assume that within that 1-2 weeks, right? Gardenia's social media go nuts. Okay?
No, I don't assume that because I think the company marketing director shouldn't assume that as well.
Okay, but assuming it really went nuts, right? Okay, Gardenia's web social media page went nuts and all these things, right? So their share of voice in the market suddenly went sky high during the 2 weeks, right? My question is, right, how does that ultimately improve your sales growth? How does it does it move 1 or 2 percentage point in terms of all the bread that's being sold in NTUC? No, it does not. You can't point, you can't pin it, you can't track it. So what is the exercise for? Other than just having a big hoo-ha. People who buy bread, regardless of viral content. People who don't buy bread, regardless of viral content. So a lot of times, I think a lot of marketing people, right, fall into this trap. Oh, I need to create a viral content. You create a viral content for what? That's the thing. You are in the spotlight for 2 months. Don't say 2 months, 2 weeks, or even 2 months. And then what? After it dies down, right, did it move a single needle in all your real business goals in terms of units move, in terms of sales move? If it doesn't, right, then effectively you spend money, create a hot bubble that resulted in a negative ROI. Because while you can feel like at the top of the world with that nice viral thing going on in that 2 weeks, right? At the end of the day, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, when your report is out, that particular expenditure, right, is a negative ROI. So it really makes no sense. It really makes no sense. When we talk about having a content going viral, right, it only makes sense for it to go viral if it drives certain metrics. Like, for example, during the Super Bowl, you know, was it Binance.com or Crypto.com, right? They ran a Super Bowl ad, right? And that ad was very, very basic. I think it was just a few frames. Very, very basic. I think it drove 1 million registered users during that time frame when it was at during the Super Bowl weekend.
Wow.
Then yes, and that piece of content was talked about for the next few weeks as a case study of a successful use of Super Bowl airtime. Because Super Bowl ad is not cheap. It's the most expensive airtime in advertising space, right? But it drives a very tangible acquisition. Then yes, you have a certain value to creating viral content. Otherwise, you create viral content for shock value, then what? Nobody's gonna. There's not much of an impact. At the end of the day, is your measure impact, because that's why I say, unless you are born talent, like for example, unless today you are Ryan Reynolds, that guy is a walking viral content. Different. Anything he does is viral. He himself is a walking marketing god, right? So anything he does is viral. Is that different? He's able to maintain a consistent level of virality that drives the ultimate business objective. And let's also be really honest here. No matter how funny Ryan Reynolds is, right? You think he will continue doing what he did with all these YouTube videos, all these Facebook videos, if at the end of the video, right, his aviation gene don't move a few more units, his mean MOMA don't move a few more sign up. If the business matrix stay constant, right, he's not going to waste his time doing all this. He might as well go and make movies. But there is a fundamental business goal that's being met. When he became the face of aviation gene, that brand went through the roof. You know, people who have not even tried gene for the longest time, right, wanted to try aviation gene. So brand recall, new customer acquisition, market interest, share of voice, every matrix that you can measure for a brand goes up. It break whatever ceiling that aviation gene previously had. So there is value in that. When he did the Min Mobile, there was a very significant subscriber growth. So there is value in the kind of videos, the kind of ads that he runs. Otherwise, if it doesn't drive any underlying business objective, right, he's not going to waste his time doing all this. Might as well just chill in his house, looking at his bank account. Can already, right? Yeah, so I think a lot of businesses don't look at it correctly. Sometimes, you know, when even we come to talk to some clients, they're like, hey, can we do something that can go viral? Again, wrong spiel. It's a very wrong spiel. Yeah. It's a very wrong spiel. You look at what drives your message first, and then you build from there. A lot of times, going viral for 2 weeks is no match for consistent long-term content that grows and grows and compounds over the next 6 months to a year. But a lot of businesses don't have the patience to do it.
Yeah, that's why I share with you. There's a lot of businesses want instant results. So, at least I got some people get to know me within the last 1 week, 2 weeks. Okay, and yeah, just brand awareness. So yeah, may not be conversion. Okay, so that is.
I would again, I would want to gently disagree on it. I bet you a lot of the viral content, right? You remember the viral content, you don't remember the brand. Yep. So to tell me that there is increase in brand recall, right, is a joke. This is what I mean by you are putting the cart before the horse. A lot of people, right, spend so much energy and time thinking about how to make a content viral, right? The content itself has a lot of work. The content itself is viral, but the content has no trace of the brand. So when people remember the content or remember the video, they don't remember which brand is behind it.
True. There are this brand recall issue. Okay.
Yeah, there is this brand recall issue. So if the argument for having a viral content is to increase brand recall, right, then again goes back to, are you doing it right? Are you doing it properly?
Yeah.
And if that thing goes viral, that's a bonus. For example, right? The John Cobb Van Damme split. Volvo wasn't trying to do a viral content. Volvo was trying to prove a point with the stability of their auto drive. But it's a magical moment, it's a lightning in a bottle, and it got viral.
Yeah.
Right? Now, they went in without thinking about the viral part. They went in thinking about how they want to prove their selling point of stability, right? This thing goes viral. I ask you, how many other copycats do you remember? You don't. Because if you're thinking only from the viral angle without having a real deep connection to the brand, it's not likely to work. And even if you remember the content, you are not going to remember the brand. So maybe for the actor or the influencer or whoever participate in the viral content, they might have their 15 minutes of fame. The brand that actually pays for it, right, gets nothing in return. Yeah. So a lot of times, to me, viral content, I don't believe in it because it's or maybe I'm not that versed in creating viral content, but I just don't believe that that's a way to consistently deliver business results. When you talk about marketing, it's still more realistic. It's still more feasible to actually run a proper disciplined ground game that you can sustain and you can replicate over time, over and over again. And whatever you add on, whatever additional things you put onto it, right, builds on the foundation and base that you already have. Rather than, again, trying to ride trends, right? Trying to ride wave. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, having said that, I think there are still a lot of business owners, trying to ride all this trend. Okay. Like for example, I think a couple of months before, I noticed that whenever there is this object of viral effect, okay, I can't remember who, okay, and what, okay, somehow, right, okay, almost everyone tried to replicate that. Okay, of course, that I also question that, okay, at the end of the day, what are you trying to achieve?
But okay, that is slightly different. The thing that you're talking about is trend jacking. I understand trend jacking, and honestly, if you are able to catch the moment, you are sensitive enough to catch it and do a trend jacking, it does work in that few days, following the trend. And that kind, right, I don't have a big opinion against it, simply because the nature of trend jacking is that is such that you use the minimum of effort to try and drive the maximum exposure. That's why you're jacking the trend. So in terms of actual investment, right, it's probably just 2 hours of your social media manager's time. There's very little cost involved in doing a trend jack. So I'm okay with trend jack. Like, for example, previously our DPMing his East Coast plan, right? So the very chicken straight away the next day have a East Coast plan, combo meal thingy. Yeah. Now that kind of trend jacking is good.
Okay.
Because it probably take their entire marketing team less than 1 hour to decide to do that, get their in-house designer to craft out that poster, right? 2 hours later, it's ready to go. They didn't spend much effort and cost to run it. But because the trend at that moment was buzzing about this whole eco-spend thing, right? It catch on. Probably move a few sales during that weekend. People probably went to Peri Chicken Mall, right? That is a good tactic. You obviously can't do it for every trend, right? It's very exhausting, but it is a good tactic simply from the point of it being a very cost-efficient tactic. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Trend jacking is fine as long as it aligns with your business, it aligns with what you're selling, and you don't need to spend too much effort and time and resources to write it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but beyond, and again, but the problem with trend jacking, you don't control the trend. You don't control the trend, right? So it's a come and go thing. You can't possibly plan and predict that, in Q2 we are going to do 5 trend jacking. You can't predict when the trend will come. So it's again, that's also the reason why it's good if you can write it when it appears. It's not the formula for sustainable discipline marketing.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, going back to your original question about how to do Facebook marketing, right? Businesses need to understand that Facebook is okay. Think of Facebook as a TV. That's essentially what Facebook is. Facebook is the TV of the digital age. Okay, so then that goes into consumer behavior already, right?
Yep.
You think about TV when you're on the TV. How many thousands and millions of channels are there in the world? But at any given point in time, you're only watching one show, right? Or one movie, right? So without promoting the other thousands of shows and TVs and movies and other programs, right? Do you think you will know about them? You wouldn't. Same thing with Facebook. Facebook, millions of people are posting organically on Facebook every single day. Without promotion, do you think you will know about it? The chance is close to zero. Very, very close to zero. So that's why organic posts don't work in Facebook. It's just like TV. So how do you want to get in front of the audience, right? You run commercials, you run ads, just like TV ads, just like TV commercials. Now, because it's just like, then the human psychology is a disruptive thing. You go on Facebook, you're scrolling through funny cat videos, you're scrolling through friend updates and things like that, and suddenly you're smacked with an ad, right? It disrupts you from your browsing, it disrupts you from your surfing. So most people don't have a good affinity to Facebook ad. So the issue then becomes, how are you going to make sure that people are still willing to know about your business or what you offer, right, despite being disrupted?
Okay.
So it has to be of value, right? If you're selling service, if you're selling a high-end product, your initial reach has to be of value. And that value has to be something that ease the person in, wanting to know more about your brand, wanting to know more about your product, without the threat of being forced or being perceived to be forced to make a purchase. That's why most, if you look at the internet gurus, all those courses and seminars, right, they do this exceptionally well. Why their first ad, right, that you see is always a free download, a free webinar, something free. It's always free because they know that they can't sell you up front. They can't sell you up front a $2,000 course. It wouldn't work. You wouldn't bother to click. So they have to soften the blow in first. They have to soften it and then let you in. Once you're in their funnel, then they can always upsell you and groom you subsequently. But when they run the ads right in front, right, it's always a very, very soft touch. Yeah.
Okay.
So then you talk about things like F&B, right? Okay, actual FMCG, right? It's always a freebie. It's always 1-for-1. It's always free, pay for shipping. It's always that because, again, you are trying to lower the defensive mechanism of the human psychology, such that it doesn't take much effort.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how usually a ad should be structured. And using an ad, because again, like I said, organic reach won't work. You can be posting every single day, and your Facebook following will not grow a single count.
Oh, that's quite sad.
It's the reality, though. But I think the biggest sadness is, right, a lot of companies are reluctant to shift gear. Like we have clients where, right, we are being paid, right, to do social media posts for them, purely for the sake of doing social media posts. That means there is no KPI attached. There is no necessity to grow the following.
Okay, it's just exposure.
I would argue that there's not much exposure.
Okay.
Because I mean, we will see the insights, we'll see the graph, we'll be able to see what's the reach and all these things, right? I would say that it's fairly constant. The reach and the exposure is probably already baked in, no matter how many organic posts you post on Facebook. The real thing that will move the needle is introduction of paid ads. To grow an audience, to move the needle on Facebook, you need to run ads. There's no other way. The moment you stop your ad, the reach drops. It's very clear. In fact, every time you run an ad, right, you will see that your reach, 97% of your reach come from the paid ad. That's how skewed it is. Facebook basically can only survive with paid ads, so they cut down on your organic reach. So there is really no point in doing organic reach on Facebook. That's what I'm saying. So one of the biggest sadness we see, and one of the biggest regret that we see is a lot of businesses, right, still find it difficult to shift their social media budget from social media marketing to social media advertising. They would rather spend, like 500, 800, 1,000, right, on getting some part-time or freelance or a basic agency package, right, to post on their Facebook page a few times every week, organic posts. Okay, they rather pay that kind of money than upgrade it to maybe, let's say, 2,000 per month, right? But the bulk of that 2,000 per month is actually spent on running ads.
So it's like a penny wise, pound foolish decision.
Yes.
Which I think you and I know also many SME. I think, unfortunately, most of SME operate in this manner. As in a pound foolish, penny wise, pound foolish.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. We have seen we have talked to a lot of our clients. A lot of them still have this reluctance to shift. I think for some reason they're just very afraid that if they don't do regular posts on their Facebook or then their followers are going to forget about them. Their brand exposure is going to drop.
Well, it's not wrong, right?
No, I know. I think it's very wrong. You know why? Again, like I said, first of all, because your organic reach is so low, even if you don't post, nobody's going to notice. That's the sad part.
Okay.
You get there's nobody notices if you don't post because there's not much reach to begin with.
Yeah.
And let's be really honest. It also depends on your size. Today, if you tell a brand like Decathlon or Adidas not to post, right? Then obviously you're shooting yourself in the foot. Okay? If you tell Starbucks not to post, obviously you're shooting yourself in the foot because given their following, maybe 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 followers on their Facebook, right? Even at 2% organic reach, right? It's still few thousand, it's still probably tens of thousands of people receiving that message.
Of course, at the end of the day, it still boils down to number of followers. If you are having thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of followers, it does make sense to continue to still do your organic posting. Okay.
So the major brand think differently because the statistic works in their favor. The problem is, okay, you look at this is where the big boys are doing, right? And then if you are a startup or you're a business, right, with a very low following, right, and you think that, because this is the successful example, you want to do like what the big brands are doing, right, and then you go very aggressive on your organic post regimen, right, you're looking at the correct result but going about in the wrong way. Because you must first think about how do you get from your 500, 600, 1,000 follower to 100,000 follower. You don't get there by organic reach. You get there by ads.
Okay. So we learned something today.
We have to get there first.
Pay money to get people so that eventually we grow them organically.
Yes, that's the whole point of customer acquisition. That's why we don't really like to use terms like follower growth, fan base, and things like that. We prefer to use the more financially sensitive term of customer acquisition, because when you say acquisition, the underlying intent is you're paying to acquire your customers. Yeah, so it boils down to your customer acquisition strategy. So when you are small, when you are nobody, you have to pay to play the game. It just wouldn't work that way.
That's also the oxymoron situation where because I'm small, I don't have budget, right? Okay, I don't have much of financial resources there. So how then I can pay to actually acquire so that eventually I don't need to pay? You know what I'm asking for? Because as a startup, I don't have money.
Yeah.
Okay, now I need to actually get my customer.
Yeah.
And I have to actually rely on a couple of organic posts to at least generate some interest. Then I hopefully pray and spray that my followers able to share my contents with their friends, with their circle of friends, with their whatever, their network, right? To actually, but like what you mentioned, unfortunately, we have to pay to acquire in order to eventually become organic. You see, so it's a situation that a lot of small SMEs, have challenges at grabbing this entire concept. You know what I mean?
Actually, right, again, right, I'll go about it in a very entirely different way, right? Okay, so again, I think a lot of businesses have to be very realistic that most of the content that they put out, right, nobody is interested.
Yeah, that's true.
So just because you spend time, effort, and energy creating a piece of content, right, doesn't mean that your friends, your supporters will share it. I think that's a very, very wrong idea. So if they start off with that idea in mind, right, then it's very unlikely that they will have good results. So they will see a lot of disappointment. And then, the usual spiel about, social media marketing doesn't work, digital marketing doesn't work, and things like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
So it can't be from that angle. And of course, different business, depending on which industry you're in, the specific details in the approach is different, right? For example, if you're in F&B, right? If you're in F&B, my strongest suggestion is don't waste time on Facebook. It's meaningless. It's meaningless. First of all, you cannot get organic reach. Okay, you can't. There's just simply no way. You have to pay to get the reach. Now, if you're a new F&B startup, you want to save money, you don't want to run ads, right? Then, so what happens is, then don't be on Facebook. Because if you're not willing to play the game, if you're not willing to play the game by the rules of the platform, right? Don't even waste time participating because you will never win. Facebook is a pay-to-play platform right now. The game rules is very simple. You got money, you come in and you play, we'll give you some exposure. Okay. That's the rule. Then you say you want to come and play this Facebook game, and yet you don't want to spend money, right? Then you're not considered a valid player, or you're not considered a qualified player. Then so the best way is don't even play in the game. Go and play another game. So in the case of F&B, right, the better game to play is you either play in Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah, that's why I also think that F&B should go into Instagram. Okay, because Instagram is very pictorial. So food is very pictorial as well. I mean, as in you take good picture, people will find curious. Hey, maybe I would like to try this kacang putih, or maybe I want to try this prawn noodles. Okay, because it looks interesting. People take, I mean, all this user generated content, right? It look interesting. So I want to actually try it. So I thought Instagram should be the way to go. Not as of course. Some people do both, okay, but I do encourage them to actually do Instagram. But of course, no harm, try both. But I also agree with you that Facebook may not generate the result they want.
Facebook won't, especially right now with the privacy issue with iOS 14 update. Facebook have less accurate data, and because of that, right, they're doing very broad-based targeting. The cost per acquisition goes up. So it's getting more expensive to play in the game as well. So let's say for an F&B, right? I would say that the best way is not to play in the Facebook game, go and play in the Instagram game. Now, how do you play in the Instagram game? And why playing in the Instagram game works? Because Instagram at this moment still has organic reach. That's the singular differentiating factor. You post strategically, religiously, in a disciplined manner on Instagram, you can get traction.
Okay.
That's the difference. That's the difference. Instagram algorithm is structured in a different way. It does reward organic content if you're able to deliver engaging content consistently. By engaging content, we mean, of course, you have user engagement signals like likes, comments, share, bookmarking, and all these various engagement signals that tells the Instagram algorithm that, hey, your content is worth exposing to more people because it seems that people like your content. Okay. So that's one. Second thing, Instagram is more social right now. It's more social right now. If you have the right content, you're able to generate a fair amount of comments. And comments is part of engagement signals. And more engagement signal you have, the better chance of your content reaching to more people. Now, in the case of F&B or maybe FMCG or fashion, where visual is a very important aspect, right? In Instagram, you always try to pair it with influencer marketing. Yeah. Because we know that in Instagram, there's still organic reach, right? The problem is if you're a new brand, you have practically nothing in your Instagram account, right? You have 0 follower, right? So if you have 0 follower, how on earth are you going to get organic reach, right? So you
correct. How?
you tap on the influencers. That's why you do that's why the moment when you want to be on Instagram, right? A large portion of your effort is to do influencer marketing on Instagram. You engage influencers, right? To push media drop, to do shout out for your brand.
Then there's also something a lot of SME, especially the newer one, not newer one as in the new company, but newer one as they're starting to explore digital marketing because of the last 2 years pandemic effect, right? So some of the established SME are trying to use new marketing channel like Instagram. I'm seeing construction company, I not construction company, but in the interior design company showcase all their tiles. Okay. I start to see that they are trying to build this platform, but some of them among them are not willing to spend with influencer marketing because I feel that I think I excite. Okay, I think I can. Okay, I don't need an influencer to help me to market my tiles. Okay, don't need to market my whatever kitchenware. What's your thought about it? Because they are not willing to pay. They know that this is a new marketing channel they need to explore in terms of digitalization, in terms of digital transformation, whichever terminology you are using. But they're not willing to pay. And it's like just now we also mentioned about this penny wise, pound foolish thing, which you and I have experienced quite many industry, quite many company and quite many bosses are in this state of mind or other state of mind. Okay, I don't want to spend to get money. That's the reason why you yourself also experience that a lot of these SME business owners say, hey, digital marketing don't work for me. So I decided not to continue my my contract with you or my service contract with you. So you answer where I'm coming from. It's something that we need to do a lot of education, or rather a lot of encouragement, or how I put education.
Yeah, I understand.
Hello, if you don't spend money, how do you get organic? And if you don't have organic, how do you continue to market your product? I mean, you can put tons of photos, okay, of your tiles, of your wardrobe, or whatever you want to put up. But if you don't pay to get even more, I mean, how sure your this digital marketing can work for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Let me break it down step by step. First of all, right, I think all businesses, right, should understand one thing very clearly. Not all marketing channels are equal.
Precisely.
Not all marketing channels are relevant to your business.
Correct.
So a lot of times when businesses say that digital marketing don't work for them, right? I think the more nuanced response, the more nuanced way to look at it is, which are the digital marketing channel that does not work for my kind of business, and which one do?
So in that sense,
focus on the ones that will work for your business.
Correct. So in that sense, I also observe a lot of business owners don't do their customer journey map when they come to you. Am I right? Yeah, is my observation right?
Yes, because you see, a lot of times when businesses come to an agency like us or a consultant like me and ask about marketing, right? What they are really asking is, how can I improve sales?
Yeah.
They're not asking how can I improve marketing. They're asking how can I improve sales.
Because that's rock bottom. That's the bottom line.
But you see, because they are already thinking at the bottom of the funnel, right? So when you want to bring the conversation up to the top of funnel, right? A lot of them don't have the patience for it.
Precisely.
Ultimately, the patience. So if a lot of times, if what they're really asking is how can I get more sales, right? Then the short answer is go and get more salespeople. You want sales, right? You want sales, you get more salespeople. You come and talk to a marketing person, what you're gonna get is more marketing. You're not gonna get more sales. Now, of course, having said that, there are certain ways to shortcut the entire funnel such that we are able to compress top of funnel, bottom, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel into one compressed flow that allows you to see the money faster. Again, it does not work for every single industry. Like the one that you mentioned, the tile company, right? Nobody buys tiles on impulse.
Yeah, precisely.
So no matter how much money you throw at the advertising, no matter how much money you throw at the marketing, right? It wouldn't work in the way you want it to work because nobody buys tiles on an impulse. I don't one day, scroll through my Facebook or Instagram, I see a very nice tile picture, then I decide, hey, I probably should upend my entire flooring the next day, and spend a few thousand on it just because I saw this very amazingly beautiful tile. It wouldn't work that way.
Yeah.
So I think the real question is whether it's the tile company or any other business, right? You really have to look at, okay, I would say not so much mapping the customer journey per se. I mean, in a way, yeah, it is customer journey, but more precisely, right, which part of the customer journey? If you want to do a marketing that compresses the cycle or the path to purchase, right, what you really want to look at is identifying, right, what is the trigger point for purchasing?
Okay.
If you can't find the trigger point for purchasing, knowing the entire customer journey is useless.
True.
You can map the entire journey, but if you can't pinpoint at which point do they decide that the switch in their brain flip decide to buy, then you're kind of wasting your resources everywhere.
Yeah, I also saw a number of all these interior design supplier company on Facebook. Facebook ads rather. Okay, sometimes I also wonder, and I also agree with you. They have not pinpoint when I would be looking at this buying curtain, buying or rather do kitchen furnishing. I think something that is hopefully this channel somebody watch it and also reflect upon and some of their friends in some specific industry, you may really want to consider, really think hard about the entire like what Elva had mentioned there, that purchasing decision making time, that flip the flip, correct, Elva? That switch of decision that I want to buy that.
More importantly, because granted, right, for certain businesses it's very easy to find a switch. Yeah. For a lot of business, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to find a switch because humans are unpredictable. Sometimes it could be due to a major event. You get me? It may not be a switch that you think of in a normal circumstance. So sometimes finding the switch is a very difficult thing.
Yeah, you just remind me of Secret Lab. Okay, when everybody was work from home, right? Yeah. Okay, everybody feeling back pain, backside pain, whatever pain you can experience, we work from home, right? Yeah. Secret Lab, I saw quite a number. Besides Secret, I think there's also another company.
But I would argue that Secret Lab, right, was able to spike their sales so well because of the groundwork that they have done before the pandemic. Secret Lab has built a niche reputation, right, of being a gamer's chair in the years leading up to the pandemic. So there is a built-in influencer community. There's a built-in group of people who love it and willing to support it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So the moment they switch it on, right, the marketing is ballistic.
Yeah. So there's another company, I think a local firm, set up by I think four guys. It's also in a similar chair business. apparently they also
Is it?
Yeah. So apparently they also hit a good sales because of all this work from home.
Demand, yeah.
But if not for work from home, I also would not be thinking of getting a chair and a flip on switch.
Yeah. You probably need correct. So sometimes that's why I say, sometimes it's the moment you meet the right moment, right? And the thing explodes. But for most businesses, you do want to look at a proper trajectory. And again, going back to the tile company as an example, right? If you don't know where the trigger point is, and again, if you cater to different businesses, if you cater to offices, commercial projects, residential projects, if you cater to all sorts of businesses, or rather, if you cater to a range of target audience that have needs for tiles, right? Each of them have different trigger point. Each of them have different flipping points. So it might be difficult for you to identify all of them, right?
Yeah.
But you can understand at a general level for your kind of product, what happens typically at the top of the funnel, what happens typically in the middle of the funnel, and what happens typically at the bottom of the funnel, right? So after accepting that you can't expect immediate sales by running a branding and marketing campaign, right? You work backwards. You work at the top of the funnel. In the case of tiles, why do people want to buy tiles? Most of the time is renovation.
Yep.
Okay. If today you are doing renovation and you want to change tiles, what is the consideration for changing tiles? Aesthetic purpose. Safety consideration, that means functional purpose, right? Is it non-slip? Is it for kitchen? Is it for living room? Is it for whatever? Do you have elderly? Is it an accessibility issue? Those are functional considerations. You are staying in a condo, you're staying in a mansion, you're staying in terrace house, it's for an office. What's the aesthetic? What's the design? So that's another set of consideration, right?
Yep.
So you work out what are your considerations. You start insetting the minds of your target audience at that level. And you do it by pushing out valuable content. What do we mean by valuable content? You push out shopping guides, you push out selection guides, you push out checklists. What to look out for if you're buying a non-slip tile for your kitchen.
Yeah, correct. All this valuable content. Yeah, I fully agree. Very educational, informative.
Exactly. You put this out. You put this out on your website in the form of blog posts. Do your SEO. Because these are all searchable terms.
Yeah, true.
Because it's on your, because you have published all this on your blog post. Then allocate some funds, run ads in Facebook to bring people to your website.
Okay.
So the game is never about staying in the Facebook environment because you might have no organic reach. You run ads, give people the valuable content, right? Some freebie tips, whatever, pull them to your website.
Yeah.
Pull them to your website. Once they're at your website, they digest the content, they start to have a better perception and trust affinity with the brand. Encourage them to sign up for your mailing list so that they can receive direct tips and buying guides in their email.
Yeah.
Now they're directly in your funnel.
Yeah, correct. I fully agree on that approach because that is that trajectory. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And when they're in your direct funnel, right, the conversion is always a multitude higher than public channels.
Yep.
So if you're able to do this route and able to get all these inquiries and customer acquisition this way, right? Do you honestly still care about how many followers you have in your Facebook page? You actually don't.
Yeah,
you're flooded with inquiries already.
Yeah, that's why I think it's very good that we through this conversation, okay, we hope that some people can tune into our conversation and really learn that when we do digital marketing, okay, it's not just plainly do for the sake of doing. Just because everybody do Facebook, we go to Facebook.
Yeah.
Don't. Okay, please don't. Everything is pretty unique to your own business circumstances. Okay, your clientele. Okay, and what Elva have rightfully point out is understand what's your client doing in terms of decision making. I think capture at the right time is catching. It just remind me okay, in my army days okay, my OCS instructor was sharing okay, how to catch fish along a forest stream. You know, sometimes small fish. So you don't catch it at a point whereby the water rushing. Hopefully you have a big net. Hopefully you have a steady net, okay, to catch them. But you try to find places whereby they will slow down to nibble on some baits that you throw into the part of the stream. You can go and find the slowest part, okay. Then you can catch it. Just like photography. F1 race, okay. I think today's sports topic, okay, because our first wave of tickets just sold out. Okay, good to talk about F1 race in relation to this marketing approach is that when you want to take photo, because most of us don't carry this fast movement captured, very sophisticated professional camera. We only use handphone. So the best part to take these fast moving cars will be at the slowest part of the entire track.
Yeah.
We catch them when we able to catch them.
Right.
I think this is something that is a good reminder, okay, especially come to SME business marketing. All of us want to capture our customer, okay, so that we can increase our sales. Our bottom line is always our first consideration. Yes, I think all of us run business, we want to make money, okay, but I think the journey of marketing, okay, we cannot be neglect. Like what Elva have actually mentioned, we try to collapse the top of the funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel as short a journey as possible. We may not be able to eliminate all the journey, but at least we try to hopefully shorten it, okay, to bring up our number ASAP.
That's also the thing, like you mentioned, right? Yes, to a certain extent, for certain businesses and for certain strategies, you can compress the stages within a funnel. It is possible to compress, but a lot of business think that they can skip certain stages entirely, and that's entirely wrong. That's entirely wrong, right?
Thanks for highlighting. I think this is a good reminder to SMEs.
my driving instructor last time, when I was taking my driving lesson, used to tell me that do everything step by step, but faster. You can't miss a step. You miss a step, you car accident, right? Do everything step by step. If you need to signal the light, you signal the light. If you need to turn, you need to turn. If you need to switch gear, you need to switch gear. Everything must be step by step, but do it faster. So what I'm saying is, yes, there is always ways to try and compress the entire journey. If previously it takes 2 months for your customers to sign up, maybe we can squeeze it to 6 weeks. Maybe we can squeeze it to 1 month and 3 weeks and so on and so on. But you can't skip the step, because the moment you skip the step, right, the entire journey for the customer to be familiar with your brand is broken. It's broken. And when it's broken, it's very hard to sync up later on. It's just like in a marriage. Before you get to the point of marrying, you register first. Before you register, you date for a while first. Before you date for a while, you kind of know each other through some casual gathering first. You don't meet the first day, right, and straight away jump to ROM.
I mean,
it usually ends up badly.
Correct. Precisely. I do heard of stories that end up badly to skip.
Yeah, the moment you skip, right, you're not fully understanding the entire situation. You're not fully aligned with the expectation. Then it usually ends up badly. So that's the thing. And of course, like what you mentioned just now about your analogy of picking the spot at the F1 thing, right? It's just like what the art of war says, right? What Sun Tzu says. pick the battles where you don't need to fight to win.
Yep.
So no point going straight on with the competition. You're not gonna. A lot of times, the reason that they are your competitors, right, is because they have spent considerable time and money building that lead. So trying to go in, head on and bang your wall against a competitor usually is not a very smart play.
Yeah, it just reminded me one of the Sun Tzu technique is on hitting the weakest point. I think one of the story goes that this army has split the army. The enemy split the army into the strongest, the not so strong, and the weakest. Yep. So what happened is the general decided to send his strongest to the enemy average one. Then the average one go and attack the enemy weakest one. Leave the weakest one for the enemy strongest to actually go and kill off. So I win 2/3. I don't win the whole. I win 2/3 to win the war.
Yeah, it's also like saying, look at the bigger game. Look at the bigger overall game rather than the individual battle. No point winning the battles and losing the war.
Yes, correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
Which is kind of what Ukraine is right now,
Yeah, but coming back to SME, I think a lot of SME, a lot of us are also guilty in the past of this marketing mindset. So sometimes we need to actually, it's good time that we take a step back, take the opportunity, really go and understand our business well, in order to engage marketing activity. I think digital marketing has become the have to do activity nowadays for most of the SME. I cannot say for all. Not everyone rely on digital marketing, but at least we are exploring digital marketing. But I think this is something that we need to remind ourselves fight where we will get the maximum advantage, rather maximum.
I think rather than just saying digital marketing, I think it's a given in our society right now, right, that all marketing is digital in one form or another. So I don't see that digital marketing as something separate. But I think the bigger concern here, or the bigger thing to think about is, right, it should not be considered as digital marketing. It should be considered as digital communication.
That's a good.
Because a lot of times there isn't much marketing to do. A lot of times people don't buy is because they don't understand. The communication resolves that problem.
You're right on that, because I think that's a good replacement of the word. Yeah, I think I personally think that I think it's communication rather than marketing. It's all about getting people understand us as a business, what we are offering to solve your problem.
Because most of the time, the only reason people don't buy is because they don't understand something. So if there is a proper and clear communication of what the thing is, the buyer can then make that informed decision of whether to buy or not to buy. And the other thing that we always want to emphasize is, right, the goal of branding and the goal of marketing is not to get more customers. A lot of times, businesses get the wrong idea that, why do I want to do marketing? Why do I want to do branding? Because I want to get more sales, I want to get more customers. We would argue that is a fundamentally wrong way to look at branding and marketing. We look at branding and marketing, right, digital communication in general, specifically as a way to sell the right products to the right customer. Keyword being the right customer. After you do your communication, if a large number of your audience choose not to buy from you, not because you never communicate properly, but because they are not aligned with your brand, right? It's okay. You wouldn't want them as your customers anyway. That's the whole point.
Yeah, agree.
So I think this is also something that we see a lot of businesses struggle to understand and accept. Yeah.
That's why one of my favorite questions to start up, right, is what is the problem you're solving? Yeah. Because that carries a lot of weight to the value you are bringing to the marketplace.
I have a different take on it.
Oh, okay.
Usually we will ask, right, what problem you don't want to solve?
Okay.
Because it's again, probably it doesn't. It's probably not that obvious here. Sorry, it's probably not that obvious in other markets, but I notice it's probably very obvious in Singapore and probably within Southeast Asia, because a lot of businesses domestically and in the region, right, look at money as the overriding objective. So they provide a lot of services. That's why a lot of companies in our region, right, pride themselves to be one-stop solution. There's a lot of companies, their key marketing posture, their key marketing narrative is, we are a one-stop shop, we are a one-stop solution. A lot of companies do that spiel, right? So what does that mean? That means whatever 冬瓜豆腐 problem your customer have, you need to deal with, right?
True. I like what you put on the what problem you don't want to solve.
Yeah, but the issue is the moment when you need to cater to solve all these problems, right? You are actually spreading your entire resource pool. You're actually allocating way too much resources, and that reduces your overall liquidity. That reduces your overall profitability. That reduces your overall ability to maneuver, spot new trends, react and respond to unexpected market conditions. So a lot of times, right, when you want to do a proper branding and marketing strategy, you want to do a business transformation strategy, one of the first things we want to understand is what are the things that you don't want to deal with. A lot of times, other people's problem is not your problem. And you would rather be very focused on being the best at solving one particular problem than trying to solve every single problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, time now is late. So let's end off this sharing session, this chit-chat session, okay, today. Let's continue next week and let's find another topic for...
We really have a habit of exceeding. I just realized.
I mean, well, business, there's endless topics.
To
talk, okay.
Yeah.
Given one day, I also don't think it can finish. Not to mention just 1-2 hours. Okay, so I think there's a lot of things that we can touch base on. Let's catch up again for next week, and we will find what are the latest weekly topics that we can discuss from the SME and the business perspective.
Yeah, and I think it would be also quite cool, right, if over the week, right, we come across some of our business associates or clients and they ask some of these business-related questions, right, and then we can just use this platform, right, to just answer those questions, and then in a way we can ask them, okay, then we can always ask them to go and look at the recording and then get answers from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, okay. Let's end off. Okay, today's session, good session. At least hopefully people tune into this session and learn about marketing. Okay, what is the right frame of mind we should come across? We should think. We should actually frame our mind. Okay, when it comes to marketing, our products, our services. Okay, whether digital space or not, I think it's very important. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Catch you next week.
Okay. Catch you.
Bye.
Bye.